Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Tuesday, October 24th Biweekly Working Group LTS meeting. My name is Jeremy, and I'm going to host today. I think Bridget's going to take notes for us. Thanks, Bridget, for volunteering for that. If this is your first time attending and you'd like to say hello, feel free to come off a mute now and just introduce yourself. Tell us why you're interested in joining. But first, this meeting is covered by the CNCF Code of Conduct, so just by participating in the meeting, you're agreeing to abide by the Code of Conduct.
Cool. Hey, Jeremy, my name is Vipin Mohan. I've not been on this meeting, but I've been on like offline doc discussions. So great to meet the crew here. Yeah, I'm Vipin Mohan. I'm a product manager at AWS.
Awesome. Welcome.
Thank you.
Anybody else? All right. Well, as Bridget mentioned in the chat, please add your name to the attendees list so we just have an idea about who's here, and so we can reach out later if we need to. I think the first thing on the agenda that we wanted to go through today was to look at the survey that we've been kind of working on. I tried to incorporate all the feedback from various folks that mentioned things in Slack, also some suggestions in the document. So let me bring that up now, and we can walk through it and see if there's anything that stands out as missing or things that we really want to capture to make sure that we're kind of nailing on understanding the upgrade experience that folks have today and understanding where pain points might be. So let me share my screen and we can go from there. After a bunch of clicks, there we go. Hopefully that's coming through now. All right. So starting out with some basic information about the environment folks are using in their clusters. So capturing whether they have any kind of special regulatory constraints. We left this open as a tell us what things you have. I tried to include a few that were known from Europe, from the US. We can use that as a starting point, I guess. Next up, are you using a managed Kubernetes offering or not? What's the oldest version? What's the most recent version? And do you upgrade your clusters at all? So that's kind of the first section.
Are we missing versions for oldest? It's like 122, 123.
I think we are.
Okay.
Yeah, let's do that. 122.
The fact that we have other older than 121 makes me sad.
I know. Okay, so we've got 121, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28. Okay. And hopefully most recent doesn't need to go that far back with other options, but we'll just leave it with other for that one.
While you have that open, do you want to reorder that?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's draggable.
It is.
It's driving the OCD among us.
Yeah. 121, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28. Okay.
Zip up to the top the special regulatory thing too. If it's checkboxes, I don't think we need a none. Anyway.
Yeah.
All right, cool.
One question of versions, if I may, I am joining late. What if we add two additional options like older than 121 and older than maybe 1.18 so that we get some more details like what folks are running? Like, is it really old, impossible old?
There is an other, so they can fill in their own
box. So if it's not one of these versions, they can type in something. So it looks like this. Other. So you can type in.
Okay, yeah, they type. Okay, I didn't know it was possible to type.
Yeah. Is the managed Kubernetes offering defaulted to yes, or did you just click yes?
I think it might be defaulted to yes. Oh no, because I've clicked through this a couple times. And it remembers what you've done. Like I typed in 123 down here before.
That's great.
Yeah, so it won't default to anything. I don't know if it's a required question. Probably, yeah, it is a required question. So they'll have to click something for that to answer it. Probably all of these should be required. Like I don't think this one is required and should be.
Yes.
This one probably okay to not click it because it's checkboxes. And then these are upgrade. Okay.
I would maybe put the regulatory question after a few of these required ones. Okay. It's just a little weird to start with like a totally optional question that applies only in some cases.
Good point.
Just warming up the crowd. Like What's your
You have a-
favorite color? Do you have special regulatory constraints?
Yeah. Okay. And
Shout
then
out your
this
favorite.
this question's a branching question, so it'll take you to two different screens. So if you say yes, there are some questions. Describe your current upgrade process. Describe your ideal process. How often do you upgrade? What's your ideal cadence? Someone suggested that. I think that's good. Like, how often do you do it? But how often? How often would you ideally do it? Do you have change freeze windows lasting longer than a month? If so, how long?
Do you want to make
Yeah.
how often do you upgrade optional? I feel like
Sure.
how often do you upgrade is a question people should be able to answer, even if what they type in is never.
Well, so if they get to this page, they should have said they are upgrading clusters.
Yeah.
So it's
For
it's based
the
off-
people who use managed clusters, is the U language going to be confusing? Like, do we want to frame it as like, do your clusters upgrade, or like, because I could see some people coming out like, well, I don't upgrade them, like that
Yeah.
all, so like, are your clusters ever upgraded?
How does your cluster get upgraded?
Or does your organization upgrade clusters?
Something like that.
Yeah.
Cool. And similar tweaks on like how often do you upgrade? Like how often are your clusters upgraded? Stuff like that.
Okay.
Would be cool if the clusters just automatically upgrade themselves, eh?
That would be cool.
Would be cool. What would the ideal be? I would never hear the word upgrade again and everything would just work.
Sounds
Well,
like another
this sounds
one
like
to
the
me.
clus-
Let's do it.
This sounds like the clusters have a life of their own, so they remove the human aspect.
The AI upgrades your clusters when it deems it right.
I just asked the Zoom AI and it upgraded all my clusters.
I tried that with Bing and it doesn't work. Bing upgrade my clusters.
Ando, why are your clusters upgraded? Should we add a feature for like upgraded because force upgraded or something like that?
Oh yeah, end of life.
Due to life cycle or something like that.
Due to life cycle or
Or
something.
end of life, yeah.
Or policies. Like, your corporate mandate says.
Yeah, I think like life cycle support window. Can we go up a little bit? When we're talking about like how often are they upgraded, what's the ideal upgrade?
Mhm.
Are we asking, is that asking about minor upgrades? Because below we talk about patch releases and minor releases. Like my ideal patch upgrade is monthly because that's how often patches come out, and my ideal minor is triannually.
Okay.
Maybe
So-
a parenthetical, how often are your clusters upgraded? Minor release, how
Right.
often, blah, 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 patch release.
Yeah.
So for both of these questions, how often are your clusters upgraded?
To a new minor release. Yeah.
Do we have like if they say so below we say are your clusters upgraded to new patch releases? If they say yes there,
Mhm.
can we ask like how often do you do patch releases? What's your ideal for doing patch releases? Do we have the ability to do like
Branching question. right?
branching at all?
Yeah, I think we do. It's pretty complicated to do that.
Okay.
So like when you answer a question,
Okay.
you can go to a different section based off of the answer. So like we can stick a couple more sections in here and
Yeah.
bounce things around. I
Because,
think
like asking them if they do patch release upgrades and then saying like how often and what's your ideal, and then asking them, do you do minor upgrades? How often and what's your ideal?
so we could leave it as an optional question here too.
Yeah.
Are your clusters upgraded to new patch releases? What's your ideal patch upgrade cadence?
Yeah, and we probably want a more granular option if we do
Every month.
/ every patch release. Yeah.
Whatever my provider gives me.
Whatever
Yeah.
what?
Whatever
Whatever my provider gives
that's
me.
a good
Well,
point.
it's in corporate world, usually every month, every quarter, or once a year. That's kind of your cadences, right?
Or if EKS skips between 1 to 5, you
Yeah.
don't really get to pick.
AKS does the same. There's
Yeah.
like there's two that you can pick from at a given time.
So what is your patch upgrade cadence? Like every month or every patch release? Every quarter? For patch releases, I guess another possibility is like ad hoc. Like if
Yeah.
a bad one comes out, then we apply it.
As needed / reactive or something like that.
And then I liked Micah's point about the managed. Like, I don't know, just whatever my provider gives me.
I was about to just say that some.
Yeah, I have little cadences. I don't care. So just, patch whenever.
And then having an other is always good. Like people,
Like
there's a
type
long
in.
tail stuff. Yeah.
You want, is it supposed to be every quarter or every other quarter?
Every
Oh,
quarter.
sorry. Good catch.
Okay. And so is this asking what their actual patch upgrade cadence is? Not ideal at this point. We're just saying like, what do you, yeah.
And then do we want to duplicate this one and say, I think we can duplicate it. Oh, I can add one later.
The trash can, right
Yeah.
to the left of the little trash icon.
Oh, right there. Yeah. So, and then so what is your ideal?
Yep.
Okay, and
Wanna
then
change the one that doesn't have ideal to current or actual, just to kind of have a contrast word with ideal.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Isn't it great?
And then this question that's up here, how often are your clusters upgraded? Do we want to leave that or remove that and replace it with the patch version down below?
I think that becomes similar, like we delete this.
Okay.
And
let's drag it down and rename it.
After they say what's you do minor upgrades, we say what's your current minor upgrade cadence?
And should we add I mean, we're putting this at monthly, quarterly, yearly, but like Kubernetes is tri-yearly.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I think similar choices. So like, maybe every minor doesn't work, but every new minor / 3 times a year. If you're upgrading quarterly, you actually run out of minor versions, but whatever. You can't sustain a quarterly. So I guess twice a year, yearly, whenever my provider, reactively, whenever my provider does it. Like some of those same choices make sense, I think. Whenever my provider upgrades me, I guess.
There's some stuff in the chats.
Oh.
For as needed, I do think there might be value for distinguishing as needed versus like when CVE is patched. I know we have another question that asks like, why do you upgrade? But I think specifically as needed reactively doesn't quite say when CVE is patched. Thanks.
We just delete the provider.
Oh, did I?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Did I miss anything else in the chat? Okay.
Maybe reorder them so they kind of go in increasing length for the specific ones. That one's fine, but down below in the minor.
Oh,
question.
yeah.
So every new minor, twice a year, yearly. At end of life, I guess. So like, yeah, because that can be more than a year. Some providers are like 14 months or 18 months or 24 months. Okay.
Now I would give one feedback. There is a previous question that says, are your clusters upgraded to a new minor version? To a minor release, I would probably drop it and then add in next question like never as an option. So we don't have like two questions that are very similar.
Which question are you talking about?
This one. Because I think we can add never in the next question. And then like we have everything in this single question.
So collapse this one into, you do the same thing for the one above, right? Are your clusters upgraded to new patch releases? And you could include never
Yeah.
as an option here.
That's probably a good idea. And
Okay.
never can be the first choice.
Yeah.
Yeah, simplify it. We do never for your ideal patch upgrade cadence.
Did I put in ideal? I put in current. Yeah, like I mean, I guess that could be ideal patch too. Like you never.
Not a very helpful. Like, what's your ideal? There are no bugs ever, and all the features are already present. Yeah. Okay.
I feel a lot of folks might answer never and maybe spoil the results a little bit because no one wants to upgrade ever. But we eventually have to do so.
Yeah, if maybe
I'm not sure I would include never in ideal. And
if
that
they
sounds
really want never,
editorializing a little.
they can hit other and type in never. But like we kind of want
answers. Okay.
And then you can delete that. Are your clusters updated? The one right there.
This one, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
One question also, is there value in having a question like, do you have to wait for the new versions to be validated before upgrading your cluster? I expect like regulated industries to need something like that.
Was that below? I thought there were some questions about validation.
Do we want to know what version they want to run, like n -1, n-2?
That'd be a good question.
Is that part of the so do we want to know that generally? Like not on the upgrade page, because people who don't upgrade clusters might want to create a cluster. I like that idea, but maybe not on the page.
Yeah, no, that maybe on the first page or something.
Okay.
Yeah, that's also useful.
Can we be consistent about the current versus ideal? I just want to make sure. I think one place we have ideal, the other place we have current.
We have current,
okay,
ideal, current, and then I didn't duplicate this one yet.
Okay, got it.
But when CVEs are patched is only in the ideal, not in current. For patch.
Oh, okay. Micah asked, do we have any question on node skew? From experience, I've only met like maybe 1 or 2 customers who are comfortable with leaving nodes at n-1. It's great that we support tests for node skew, but it would be good to know if anyone really runs that way.
Yeah, I mean, do we,
OpenShift does, but only in the context of like applying 2 updates. So ideally they're doing it for like a few hours rather than months up to a quarter.
I recently spoke to some customers who said that they use it for like 6 months. They upgrade their control plane to 2 or 3 versions ahead, and then 6 months later they bring up their nodes. So maybe
Yeah.
it could be worth to have it.
All right. How do we want to word that?
Well, I think both of those questions. So the question about like, what version do you want to run relative to the newest version? And the
Mhm.
question about, do you run your nodes skewed? I think both of those we probably want outside the upgrade page.
Okay.
Just so we get the data from more people.
Yeah.
Okay. So the first question is, what?
Maybe do they use version skew? Like if that's we start with that.
You run an, yeah, like do you run a mixed version cluster or something? I don't know. You want to say outside the upgrade cycle or
Do
long
you
term?
run nodes? Do you run nodes older than the control plane?
Yeah, or routinely run or regular something. Yeah.
With a version older than the control plane's version.
You routinely run nodes with a version older than the control plane.
You got your Yoda phrasing going.
Do routinely you. Thanks.
Yes.
Do the whole survey in Yodas. Okay, and then this is going to
Upgrade we
be.
will.
Well, I think multiple. So like never 1 version older, 2 versions older, 3 versions older.
Oh, okay.
Would be helpful to know because we, yeah.
And then people can tell us if they're running more than n-3 is supported now.
N-3 is supported now. Other is, please tell us how sad we should be about what you're doing.
Yeah.
For never, do you want to say only during upgrades or something? Just like
never / only during.
Only during upgrades. Just because more clear we are, the better.
Would those be better as 2 separate options so you would know?
Yeah, that's true actually. Because some people who run immutable stuff and
they just
never and only during upgrades. I like those as 2 options. We who are steeped in skew language, like n-1 makes perfect sense to us, but we may want to say like 1 minor version older, 2 minor versions, 3 minor versions older.
We can leave bot like in parentheses, put 10-1 maybe.
Yeah.
The only thing that doesn't maybe doesn't click well with me, like never and only during upgrades, like is it really possible to do the upgrade at the same time that you upgrade both control plane and nodes? Like it's very often that
if you have a single node cluster where the node is the control plane, you can stop all the processes, replace all the binaries, start all the processes again, and you have upgraded the node and the control plane simultaneously, technically. It's possible. And you see like appliances and like kind of all-in-one installs that can do it that way.
Yeah.
Okay, so do we want to collapse these into 1 question?
I like never only during upgrades. I think that's fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, because companies like Replicated specialize in single node clusters, right? The ship. So it's a
Yeah, I mean, maybe you never run, you don't upgrade either. You just spin up a new cluster and.
Yep.
Okay.
Oh, we there was the question about like, what's your ideal? Ideally, what version would you run? Like the latest version?
Okay.
What minor version maybe? I don't know.
Maybe so. How far behind are you from the latest version? Like, are you
Well,
running?
they've already told us what like they're the newest and oldest version they are running. So this is more like, what's your ideal?
Do you want to say what release would you run? Just so people don't have to think minor.
Do you want to put a question mark?
Is that a question?
Okay, so latest or / current.
N-1.
I'm wondering if there's nuance here that, like, yes, maybe if you're using a managed provider, your provider has made something available to you, but it's like in preview. So it is latest, but it's not like the official supported one. I'm wondering if we want to capture that somehow.
I mean, like latest available kind of, like if they're running it directly from open source stuff, like the latest available is the latest. If they're running on a managed provider, latest available is whatever, like the newest one their provider offers.
In like preview or whatever, if their provider does
that
way.
And that gets into provider language, right? Because sometimes it's preview, sometimes it's bleeding, sometimes it's stable. Like
I think latest available is
or newest available or something. I don't.
Oh yeah, latest can be vague and ambiguous. Yep.
Should we say one minor release older than newest, just to make sure that we're consistent?
Yeah.
I just think there's a distinction between my provider made these bits available to me on the bleeding edge, and my provider is saying this is the current stable version. I wonder if we want to capture that.
So like
newest available, and then another line that's most recent stable or something, or
just like currently designated, stable, type or something like that.
Yeah, it's tough to come up with questions that make sense for managed folks and folks using stuff directly. Newest available, I would drop the /current, but like newest available is pretty straightforward. At the other end of the spectrum, it'd be like the oldest that's available or oldest supported version or something. Like, I like to sit at the trailing end after everyone else has found all the issues with whatever.
I want to say current stable or recommended release, or like / recommended release, because
I like recommended.
This is a little bit strange for upstream users, the open source users, because we don't really have recommended releases.
But we certainly have preview releases. Like, run nightly.
Run the alphas and the betas.
Ideally, what minor release would you run? Release candidates all the way. Yeah, those two middle ones are tricky.
Oh, I like Vince's idea. Provider recommended release if applicable.
Current stable or provider.
Yeah, like that's going to make sense to a user. It's not, I don't know that it's going to be helpful for us. Like if 100 users say, oh, I run my provider recommended release, like is that
it's almost always N-1 or N-2 from current. That's pretty consistent.
Yeah.
Google's and your AWS's and stuff. They're always
There's like
they're
a preview rapid kind of thing, and then like
Yeah.
a regular
Right, that-
default. Yeah.
The way these are phrased, is there overlap between current
Yeah.
stable and one release older?
Yeah, I think stable is kind of overloaded. So like,
yeah. So just
you
go
can-
with Vincent's just provided recommended release. Because that could be a ISV product they use. It could be that can capture a lot, right? That means they don't care. They just want whatever's recommended, which is fine. It's good to know.
Paco's making a good point in the chat about, are we asking about in production or are we talking about at all?
well, it's definitely production, but
Are we explicitly saying somewhere up near the top of this? All of these
No.
questions are scoped to in production, or
oh yeah, and when we say like in your environment, in your production
Like
environment, your production
people
environment.
have test environments where they test God only knows what, but that
Yeah.
might not be the info we're looking for.
One
ready.
question about that. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
Can we maybe add an option that goes like, for what environment are you filling this form? And so maybe we can allow, okay, this is for production, this is for development. So maybe we get some idea if folks are actually trying new versions and experimenting, but not willing to upgrade in production. Would something like that be useful?
I'm afraid that's gonna make it too confusing or sprawling. Like I really want to know, like, the clusters that matter in production.
Right, and if our scope is long-term support, you don't technically usually support development environments in the same way, right? Like long-term isn't usually a concern.
I mean, for the trying stuff out, like there are a couple of particular questions about like how do you qualify upgrades, or I think we could ask like one question there, like how do you qualify it? Do you have a test environment? Do you have a sort of less important production environment that you try things like? How do you qualify? That might be useful. So
yeah, two minutes about that. Maybe we should mark these two questions as declared.
I'm curious if we want to actually put the word production in the survey title, Kubernetes production upgrade survey. Like, do we want to make it super clear that we only care about that for the purposes of this survey?
Sure.
Yeah, done. Added a text block too. So when they see the thing, it'll give them that.
All right.
Okay. Did we miss anything up here? I think we captured the two.
Yeah. The ordering is like newest, one release older than newest. I guess we could say oldest. I think we put managed at the end. That's pretty reasonable. I guess how many do we support? We briefly support 4 versions for like a month after a new miner, so we could say 2 releases older than newest. I don't know.
Yeah, I agree. I think it would definitely.
You want to go
useful
into, but that kind of gets into people trying on purpose to run things that are very quickly falling out of support.
Yeah. I mean, 2 releases older than newest is like I have a principle, like a new one comes out and then I tick up. Oldest is like you can have this minor version when you pry it out of my fingers.
Yeah.
All right. That seems reasonable.
Sorry to repeat the point. Should we say minor releases just to make sure that people are aware what we mean?
Yeah, I put minor in the block here.
Okay.
Give me a duplicate in each.
I mean, I'm fine as long as people understand what we mean.
Do we ever ask about number of clusters? Because that, like number of clusters they manage, because that could depend a lot. If you're managing 100 clusters, a quarter for an upgrade is a different task than 2 clusters. or number of nodes potentially?
Yeah, I think both of those are good questions because they're slightly different problems, right? Like if you run clusters with a lot of nodes, especially if you're on bare metal, it's really difficult to upgrade the nodes because disrupting the workloads, and like you can't spin up extra stuff to replace it. Like having done that in a previous place, it is difficult to keep up.
Yeah, and even if you do have access to all of the magic of cloud, cost considerations might mean that no one's going to approve you running 2x.
Thank you. The OCD among us were bothered by that.
We gotta add another option, and then same thing for
Like how many nodes are on the average cluster?
just pick the same numbers, or do we want more granularity?
I think like t-shirt sizing is fine. Like if yours like single digits, less than 100, you know, up to 1,000, more than 1,000. I don't know. I think that's probably
okay.
Like the process for upgrading 500 nodes and 1,000 nodes is actually probably going to be really similar
Same.
at
Yeah.
that scale.
Those are required too. Rita, yeah, I think we have a question for how long does it take to upgrade clusters? Let's scroll back down. How long does an upgrade typically take? 1 week, 1 month, 1 quarter, and then there's another block.
Is this asking about an upgrade for one cluster or an upgrade of all your clusters? We should be clear about which we're asking about.
Oops. I deleted that option, didn't I? There was a 1 day.
I was thinking like more for all your clusters, because usually people don't just do one cluster, right?
Would it be useful to have both questions? How long does it take to upgrade one? How long does it take to upgrade your fleet?
Maybe like yeah, I don't even know how I would answer like all your clusters. Like,
well, because
if
usually
you have a big enough fleet, they're kind of continuously upgrading.
Yeah, the answer is never. You will never complete it until the heat death of the universe.
Yeah.
I think people like a release window, like start upgrade window usually. And the reason why sometimes people take a while is because each time they upgrade all their clusters, it takes a while. So I think it's good to actually understand. And I think it's also related to the size of their fleet, right? Like the more clusters you have, potentially you have more, like an upgrade window will take, which explains why they don't want to upgrade so often.
If you have something you call a fleet and you upgrade it in 1 day, I want to shake your hand.
Yeah.
I think we should maybe make these questions as a range, because what if we have situation it takes 3 days? Then you're neither 1 week or 1 day. So maybe 1 day, 2 days to 1 week, up to 1 month or more, maybe something like that.
Okay. So 1 day.
Up to 1 week, up to 1 month. And maybe we can, never mind.
we never finish as an option.
No, I was thinking about longer, which is
Oh.
technically never finished, but
Yeah. Oh, actually, longer can be covered by other, right? There's another option for both.
yeah, but someone needs to type it in, and maybe it would be easier to parse results if we have a dedicated option.
Okay.
For consistency, can we change that 1 day to up to 1 day to match
Yep.
the other one?
Should these questions be required?
It can be required. We can make everything required. I mean, if we want to do that for most of the questions, I think it makes sense. Micah said, should using a managed provider be exclusive, yes or no? Thinking of hybrid use cases. And Vince said, yeah, good call. So like,
Yeah, on the top question.
Yeah. Checkboxes?
Yeah. Yes or no is probably sufficient. Like, or I mean, yes and no would imply that you use both.
Yeah.
That's weirdly phrased. Like what type of
It is.
what type of clusters do you run? Self-managed or managed? True, false, and file not found.
Do we want to know if people are using on-premise bare metal or cloud resources?
So you could have multiple self-managed, right? Like bare metal. Yeah, bare metal, virtual, I don't know, virtualized, whatever you want to call it, and then cloud-based.
Are people
One
going to get
question about
confused
that.
between virtualized and
Yeah,
cloud-based?
cloud-based.
Yeah.
Or just on-premise then, or yeah, bare metal on-premise or cloud-based maybe.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I have one question about that. What if you're using some platform for managing Kubernetes that is not entirely like not entirely fully managed like a cloud provider, but maybe something like, I don't know, OpenShift, Kubernetes, something like that? Do we want to capture that? Do we want to capture that under managed?
So the same two options for managed
Is there
on premises or cloud-based.
You could add an other with a fill-in, maybe.
I'm trying to think how to phrase that wouldn't confuse people. I think if we leave an
Yeah.
other escape hatch, then yeah.
Where would you put, like, I'm running on OpenStack and I have the flexibility to spin up a new cluster and migrate workload, and it's on-prem? Is that self-managed cloud-based, or is that self-managed private cloud? What would we do there?
Do we want to put the word hybrid somewhere, hoping that that's something people would recognize?
I'm worried hybrid doesn't give us much idea what's going on there.
So managed hybrid, or I don't know. It's just how many options do you want to have?
Yeah. A lot of, Rita said earlier, words are hard.
They are. These
We
words
have
are.
a time check. We have 14 minutes left.
I think also like maybe think about how are we going to use these results? Like how does me knowing like manage hybrid, like how does that influence the or help our understanding of the problem?
Like the self-managed bits are saying, I'm deciding when upgrades happen. I'm the one saying this patch goes or not, this minor goes or not. I'm planning out my upgrades. Managed, and someone else is doing that for me. And maybe I have some influence on it, but Like someone else is worrying about that and testing it probably. The bare metal versus cloud dimension is helpful in understanding, like, do you have elastic nodes? Do you, are you disrupting your workloads when you upgrade? Are you, do you have immutable nodes and stuff like that? Like some of those things are sort of implied in those categories. The hybrid bit.
Maybe that's the question, right? Is do you have control over this?
Yeah,
Instead of like, sorry, yeah. Like, what do we want to get out of this? Yeah. Is it that we want to know, do you have control over the upgrade experience or not?
Both the timing and the flexibility, which I think this gets to, like asking people, do you have the agency to spin up the additional number of nodes you might require? Might be a question they can't or won't answer.
Like I think the self-managed versus managed division is the clearest part of this. To Micah's question about like where does Anthos or EKS fall? Like even some of those products have options to sort of put your clusters under management or drive it yourself. And so like, are you self-managed or is it managed for you? That is the most generic way I can think of to understand across a lot of different products. And I don't know.
So do you want to have self-managed bare metal on-premise, self-managed cloud, or hybrid cloud, or something?
I don't understand I think hybrid will confuse people.
Well, that depends which ecosystem you're in, because some obsessed with the name. So
yeah.
Will the other box capture that? People can type in
What if we add hybrid with the explanation that it is maybe a combination of self-managed and managed or something like that? Thinking out loud. But they can select multiple choices.
Or we can just say managed on premises, right? And then the hybrid version's not involved.
Yeah.
That also
I think there is one. Yeah, I think there is one very important question. That's whether you upgrade the application Kubernetes and the operating system together or separately. Sometimes if you have to upgrade the operating system together with the Kubernetes, then it will become very complex.
I mean, to Rita's point, we have that later question of when do you do upgrades? Like you do every version, or does you just take what your cloud provider gives you, which is maybe what we really care about.
Okay, so in the interest of time, do we want to take this one offline and we can just debate it in Slack and figure out what we want it to look like?
We have 9 minutes left, so yes.
Okay, so action, everybody will review that in Slack. We didn't discuss when we wanted to publish this. I think before we discussed, we wanted to do it before KubeCon. So that gives us this week and next week to get it ready to go before KubeCon. I think that's plenty of time to hash through things. We didn't look at this section at all in the no upgrade section. So I wanted to hit that one first and we can move on. The questions we have in here right now, do you have insufficient business support to keep your systems fresh? What stops you from upgrading? What challenges would enable you to perform? What changes would enable you to perform upgrades? How do you consume security fixes for your clusters? Anything else we want to put in that section?
So the last one is maybe like, maybe it would be better in a yes or no question. Because if someone doesn't upgrade, or I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, one option there is they just spin up new clusters. They're not upgrading.
Yeah.
They're just doing migrations.
Yeah, like instead of immutable nodes, they might have immutable clusters. So I
Mhm.
never upgrade a cluster. I just spin them a new one and burn the old one to the ground.
Regarding this question, how does this help us? Knowing there's no business, there's staffing issues, how does that help us?
Yeah, I can think of particular reasons. Knowing whether the reasons that they're not upgrading are things that are within our control or things that are within their control. That division is helpful. There's a lot of reasons that are out of our control that, and so I'm not sure enumerating all of those is.
So do we want to focus just on like, are you not able to upgrade because of technical reasons versus like, like kind of be more pointed about, like to your point, there could be business reasons, there could be other reasons. Why are we focusing, like, why are we calling this one out as opposed to other ones? Or maybe we just say like, are there, is it the technical reasons the only reasons why you can't upgrade?
Like the people who come to this page, like some people come here because they don't upgrade and they've decided not to because they have a different way of doing things. Some people come here because like they're not in good shape. And it's tricky to have questions that sort of apply equally to both. Like what stops you from upgrading? Like some people might say the thing that stops me from upgrading is that I decided not to because I have a replace cluster strategy and this is ideal for us. Like
how about why don't you upgrade?
Yeah, like a more neutral phrasing of the question to capture both the like principled, we have an alternate way of doing things, and
how do you handle application lifecycle or application platform lifecycle or something? Just then you can go like we replace clusters, or whatever other wording we want to do.
The people who don't upgrade, yeah, the first question I kind of agree with Rita. Like I'm not sure what we do with that. Why don't you upgrade clusters, and what do you do when they get to the end of support? Like those are the two questions I have.
Okay.
And the question about the security fixes is useful. Like
to your point, like if there are non-technical reasons, they'll probably tell us, which like I just want to make sure we don't kind of tell people or like leading the answer, if that makes sense.
Okay, so why don't you upgrade clusters? What do you do when clusters get to end of support? How do you consume security fixes for your clusters?
Yeah.
Okay. And then the last section was just general challenges. What do you do when a cluster is no longer supported either by the community or by your vendor? What are your biggest? Oh, go ahead.
So we have two branches. We have a branch for you do upgrades and one for you don't do upgrades.
This one comes back at the end and everybody can answer it.
Okay. All right. Then maybe we don't need that in the non-upgrade page because that's kind of the same thing. Yeah.
Instead of saying why don't for the non-upgrade, instead of saying why don't you upgrade, could we
biggest challenges are blockers. That's kind of the same as the.
Do we not need this section at all?
Maybe not.
Okay.
Well, I mean, if they say no, they don't do upgrades, it'd be good to know. Is it new clusters every deploy, or do they do cluster replace? Right?
Yeah, maybe just the one question: why don't you upgrade?
Yeah,
and they can
just
say
something really
because we
simple.
have a better way, or we're blocked, and then.
Can we make it choice option and provide something like I don't upgrade because I have immutable infrastructure, and eventually with other at the end?
Yeah, yeah, and that would probably cover 90% plus of the cases, just those two questions, right? Or just those two answers.
Okay, and then that'll bounce them to the last one. What do you do when a cluster is no longer supported? What are your biggest challenges or blockers with upgrading? Has an other at the end. And then a free form, if a new release was perfect, no regressions, no deprecations, no removals, etc. Please share other constraints that would keep you from upgrading or prevent you from upgrading more regularly. And then someone suggested, what does LTS mean for you? Which I think is kind of out of place for this, but is an interesting question to ask since we have their attention.
I would like that we better clarify LTS because for different people, it might be different things. Like, do we want to say long-term support?
And can we make it multi-choice? Oh, sorry, not multi-choice.
Checkboxes?
Yeah. Thank you.
We add reduced update cadence.
In the backporting one, can you add the S to the end of versions?
Oh, sorry.
We are at time 1 minute. What time do we agree to come back together to say, should we say a week from today, we're going to all have our edits in so this can get published by the end of the following? Like edits in by Tuesday, published Thursday next week.
Yeah, I would agree that we should probably target maybe for publishing Tuesday next week so that we have time to publish like on mailing list and stuff like that before KubeCon.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so publish Tuesday. Edits in Monday, publish Tuesday, US time zones.
Yeah, that sounds good to me.
One question, what is the best way to provide feedback for stuff we didn't have to discuss? Is it okay to start a thread or Slack?
Yeah.
And go there?
Yeah, I think that's the best way. You can't leave comments on Google Forms, unfortunately, even if you have editor rights. So that's probably the best way to go. You can leave them in the docs. I'll scrub that as well, or in the meeting agenda. Like if you want to add anything there, I can go back and scrub through that. But I think a Slack thread is the best.
Sounds good.
Need a Halloween LTS survey, upgrade survey.
The spooky version. You can put some pumpkins in the emojis up here.
I was thinking of like screaming ghouls or something.
Yeah. Tombstone
Upgrade,
somewhere.
no.
All right. Well, thanks everybody. That was really useful. Definitely, if you have feedback, leave it either in the agenda doc and we can take it from there, or Slack threads ideally would be better so we can discuss. Bridget, did you have something
and I
you
believe
wanted?
we don't have this meeting in 2 weeks because of
KubeCon.
KubeCon.
Yeah.
So then 4 weeks, we'll see folks back here.
All right. You have a great rest of your Tuesday. If there's anything left in your Tuesday, otherwise have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.